I had to tell this story because I have this thing in my heart about people being heroes, people stepping up and doing what's right. I think when I really started writing, putting it together in the sense that it's like this is going to go somewhere, was when I was attending the University of Arizona as a theater major. I love theater. I love the idea of the words being put together to create not only just a story, but the specifics of a human being's thoughts and feelings. I knew I was a storyteller when I started figuring out the thoughts and the feelings of the characters that I was playing. And at a certain point, that process of taking the page to the stage, at a certain point, I wanted to put my own ideas, my own thoughts and feelings into characters and have them say things that I was feeling. I wanted to do that. That's where it started happening. Okay, so I don't know exactly what my first comic book was, but I know that it was probably a DC comic. I was about 6 years old, and I hung out at my grandmother's house a lot, and she had this box with her sons, my uncles, comic books, and she'd say, "Read, go ahead, go ahead, mijito, read those." And I would look at the pictures. And because I was 6 years old and still at the beginning of reading, the process of reading, what I didn't understand, the pictures explained. And really, interestingly enough, I started falling in love with the artwork. And then beyond that, I wanted to draw. And I started drawing. I started teaching myself more and more, and that became my passion. The Legend of El Lobo, the idea of the character, the story, was born when I came to Los Angeles in the 1990s as an actor. A friend of mine says, "Hey, did you ever think about creating a character for yourself?" And I went, "Yeah, I could do that. Instead of always auditioning and waiting to be picked, create my own project." And because, like I said, I had a background in drawing comic books, wanting to be an artist, and having collected them, I created the character, the movie project that I wanted for myself as a superhero movie. The main story of The Legend of El Lobo is Rico Santiago, a comic book artist, has the power to turn into an 8-foot Aztec warrior who can also take the form of a wolf. And in Spanish, when the conquistadors see this character many, many years ago, they say, look, mira, el lobo, the wolf, and the name stuck. He draws a comic book to keep the kids out of gangs in his neighborhood where his father was killed. And what he doesn't realize is that he turns into this character, fights the gangs that had killed his father, and then takes these images from his experiences. He doesn't remember it all. He writes the next issue of his comic book. The kids love it, but the gangs are like, this is like basically reporting what actually happened. He's either there, he has something to do with it, and you have that conflict, gangs versus somebody who's trying to keep the kids out of gangs. And he doesn't want to kill when he realizes that he becomes El Lobo, and he wants to find a way to help, to maybe be a hero, but without the killing. And so what he has to do, he realizes, is let go of the rage for the death of his father that lies in his heart, and then he will be able to control the power and better able to help his community. Two characters of The Legend of El Lobo, the secret identity, if you will, the Clark and the Superman. We all know through history that in 1520, Hernan Cortez, the conquistador, Spain, conquered the Aztecs. Bruce Logan and I decided to ask, what if they didn't just get defeated? What if we have some detail? We created a mythology that says the Aztecs offered up to their god of war, Huitzilopochtli, the heart as a human sacrifice. We will give you the heart of our greatest warrior, Huracan, if you will just let us survive the Spanish conquistadors. The gods laugh at them, mock them, and say, no, instead, we will give this warrior the power of the wolf, the protector, and he will be able to defeat them. Unfortunately, the power enhances what he already is, the ferocity, the strength. And when he sees his woman in the arms of Cortez, he becomes jealous, kills indiscriminately conquistadors, his own people, and realizes, I am not worthy of this power. And it has himself entombed until somebody more worthy comes along who can help the people, la gente, la raza. And so the conquistadors win, and we all know that the Aztecs disappear, and we have Mexico City and Mexico. Cut to 500 years later, Rico Santiago, a young comic book artist whose dad was involved in gangs and was killed, doesn't want that life for himself. And so he uses his artistic abilities to draw little rags, little comic books that basically say, stay out of crime, stay out of gangs, crime doesn't pay. And then he is introduced to a woman who introduces him to that story of El Lobo from the past, who introduces him to a tomb, a hidden tomb in Mexico, in a pyramid that where the spirit recognizes he's trying to do good for his people. It goes into him, and when he goes back to East LA to continue to draw, now he's inspired, draws the character of El Lobo, and then turns into him, and then has that conundrum of how do I let go of the anger that I have for the gangs that killed my father in order to help these people. The supporting characters are, we have a teacher who is involved with Rico Santiago because the woman that took Rico down to Mexico to see the tomb and introduce him to his culture, Mika, he falls in love with her. And unfortunately, at the time of the discovery of the tomb raiders have been watching this event when they go in there and are only interested in the gold and the loot, and they kill her and her uncle who had been protecting the tomb. And she only leaves him with the words, let the power of El Lobo, help you, and awaken to the power of El Lobo. And he comes back, and her little brother has come up from Mexico by himself. Very much like our modern news, where we have a lot of people, immigrants coming in for the salvation of they're trying to make a living. They're trying to survive whatever is going wrong in their lives. So they come to the United States for asylum. He's like this. He comes in on his own. And Miguel, he becomes the guardian to Miguel because he thinks he owes it to Mika. The teacher is Miguel's teacher because Rico takes him to school. You got to learn. You got to get an education. And she knows the intellectual, the book part. She knows the history of what happened. So she, Gabriela, the teacher, helps Rico sort of guide his understanding of the Aztec history and what he can do with the power of El Lobo. And together they try to help Miguel stay out of the gangs. Now, another main character in the Legend of El Lobo is Angel Hidalgo, Rico Santiago's childhood friend. When the gangs decide to find out who's drawing these comic books, they encounter Rico Santiago. They confront him. They take him to their leader, who happens to be Angel Hidalgo. His street name is Dark Angel. When they see each other, they recognize that they used to be friends. And later on, it is revealed that in order to become the head of the gangs, Angel Hidalgo, a.k.a. Dark Angel, assassinated his father. And so Rico has the internal conflict that has been now heightened. Not only how do I let go of the revenge that I have for the death of my father, but even more so, it was my best friend who did this, and he's the one that I'm conquering. Can I do this? Can I release this rage, this revenge that I have for this guy that I grew up with in order to take care of the bigger picture? The first big story arc would be, oddly enough, it's the backstory. We can't really have Rico Santiago, the comic book artist in East LA, just becoming this giant warrior without understanding where this comes from. And so that big arc, the original arc, is based on history. We know circa 1520 that Spain came to the, what is now known as Mexico, and that they conquered the Aztecs, and that there was a woman involved in the translating from Spanish to Nahuatl. They speak the language of the Aztecs, and her name was either, depending on what you hear, Doña Maria, Malitzin, and now also known as Malinche. She's considered in modern terms, she's referred to as a traitor, because it was because of her translating that gave Hernan Cortez the ability to communicate, find out more, and she also gave information, it's arguably stated. And she did bear his children, so she slept with him. Bruce Logan and I decided, what if, and that's how stories begin, what if, and the imagination kicks in, just before this major battle, right, what if, as I said, they asked their gods to help them. We'll sacrifice a warrior, our greatest warrior, let us survive. They said, that's foolish. Why go do away with the person that we can help? We'll enhance him. And so he is enhanced, Huracan, the greatest warrior, and he becomes El Lobo, the first one. But he doesn't handle it well. And then he is put away in a tomb, and the spirit of that power rests until 500 years later, present day, someone comes along, and that is Rico Santiago. That is the second major arc, and his major thing is, how do I solve my problem, which is I want to help the people, but I seem to be doing my own killing. I seem to not be in control of the power, and it can go awry. I think, with all due respect to, everything under the sun of comic books, this is very, very much like Stan Lee and Spider-Man's with great power comes great responsibility. Heroism involves courage, risk, and decisions. You have to make choices. I had to tell this story because I have this thing in my heart about people being heroes. People stepping up and doing what's right. Because the truth of the matter is, as we all know, we don't have superheroes. And we use that word super because it's supposed to be a superlative that says, boom, right? Be better than we are. Be better than, don't just be normal, be better. Step up. And so, help the person that's been in a car accident. If there's been a car accident, get out of the car and see what's going on. Help the old lady that trips and falls, or help the homeless. These human qualities. We have to be our own heroes. It's a metaphor. And in addition, I wanted to make it a hero that spoke of a culture that is not as recognized as it should be. There's lots of people, even within their own culture, Mexico, Latinos, who just go, what, Aztec? I come from where? We take it for granted that, it's not necessary. But in this sense, I wanted it to be. There's other stories to be told, and they can be told in different ways, and that's what I wanted to do. My partnership with Bruce Logan is that we are friends, and it is an extraordinary one. He's a great, great guy, gentleman, my mentor, my friend, as I said. I've learned a lot, and we spark when we're together. I met him in the 90s. A friend of mine said when I came out here as an actor, hey, wouldn't you like to create your own project? And I was like, yeah, sure. And as we were developing this project, she introduced me to Bruce, who's a director, a filmmaker, and a visual effects wizard. I mean, he's a genius. Come to find out, he's the guy who is in charge, and actually there's a photograph I've seen of him holding the controls. He blew up the Death Star in Star Wars, so he knows what he's doing. He's a Renaissance man. He can do just about everything. So we had a meeting one day, a glorious meeting. I love it. It's legendary in our world. And he asked me questions about this idea of El Lobo and what we were trying to accomplish. And together we started weaving together his ideas, my ideas, his questions about what would work. I would try to answer questions. We would have these great discussions. And this meeting, this original meeting, lasted, I promise you, it must have been about 3 or 4 hours, but it felt so invigorating and so wonderful to just get all these stories and ideas out in the open that it didn't feel like it lasted. It just was magical. I was energized. I left. 2 days later, he calls me and says, hey, you know what? Come on over. I got an idea. I want to show you something. He had taken all the notes and put it into a treatment for what eventually becomes a screenplay that he and I have written. So we're co-writers, co-creators. He is going to direct. We are both going to produce. And I was thinking about playing El Lobo, Rico Santiago. But like a lot of projects, you just want to spend your time overseeing your baby and nurturing it. So if I get to be a victim of El Lobo, if I get to be a detective who's in on the story, or a community member, I have no problem with that. I'm an actor, I can do any part, and I'll do that. And we together are producing, and that means that we are looking for financing. We find our artists when we're doing the comic book. We do need an artist anyway, because there's got to be an artist drawing all the stuff for the movie in The Legend of El Lobo, which is how we found Brett Marting. We wanted him to be the guy. And then we work together in every aspect. We go to comic conventions, we go to meetings, we do interviews, anything that will help nurture this project, which is a franchise. It can be a movie, it can be a series, it can be a electronic game, a comic book, an animated feature, an animated series. It's got potential, and that's how we work together. I'm not exactly sure where we found the original artist, Brett Marting. The idea was we needed an artist when we were filming the teaser trailer who could create the art that the main character, Rico Santiago, is going to be drawing, which becomes El Lobo. And we got a hold of him. I think it was just fairly out of school, studying art. He's extraordinarily good, did a lot of our art. And then, unfortunately, because of that great ability he got a really, really good gig with EA, right? The electronic gaming people. And so we had to find another artist. Well, where do you find a comic book artist? We went to a comic book convention, and that's where we met our subsequent artist, Albert Morales. And he worked with us for a while. And then, like all independent artists and workers and writers, comic book creators, you have different projects. Everyone's just trying to, pull together different projects to make a living or at least survive. And he had to move on. And so we had to get a third artist, and that was Damon Westenhofer, who was introduced to us through a friend. And we were like, where has this guy been? This is great. And he took the elements that Brett had started with, that Albert had subsequently picked up, and then he added his own, a significant part of his own, and he put this whole comic book together for us. He did the lettering, and we, Bruce and I, we directed the imagery, and then said, do this, as far as like little notes, but it was mostly Damon putting the whole baby together. The first comic book was born from the film idea. The idea is that Bruce Logan is a filmmaker, I'm an actor, we're in Hollywood, and we wanted to make a movie, a feature film, a superhero project with a Latino superhero, an Aztec warrior. And at a certain point in trying to develop a fan base and get more people, because when you're looking for investors, the obvious question is there somebody out there who's gonna see this movie or knows about it or wants it? Because if I'm gonna invest money, I wanna know that there's enough of those people to help me get my money back or profit. And so we thought, well, since it's a superhero genre film, it's involving a comic book, why don't we help spread the word, tell the story of El Lobo, as I said, franchise-wise, and create the comic book. So this way, when an investor looks at us and says, what is this? We can show them the comic book, the treatment, the trailer, the script, and this way they don't have to use so much of their imagination. It's pretty much packaged for them. And that's pretty much how the comic book was born. We wanted to spread the news in a different way, in a different visual art form. The movie trailer was born, again, that's why it's a great thing to have Bruce around and collaborate. He said, I think we should shoot a trailer. And I was like, oh yeah, so that instead of having a conversation with an investor or any other collaborators and asking them to use their imagination, we take that gap away and we show them what it could look like. So he wrote the treatment, we both produced, he directed, we gathered the actors, and we shot the trailer. And then for that trailer, we needed comic book art. And we didn't use all the comic book art. And then it came, Bruce had an idea, well, why don't we animate this, see what it looks like? So we asked Brett to come up with a little more sequential art in between what he had given us, and Bruce Logan animated it. So now you can look at the 45-second animation and you can get an idea of what it would look like as a cartoon, as an animated feature, and also the kind of animation that would be used for an electronic game. Our future plans for The Legend of El Lobo. Bruce and I think of it as a franchise. It could be a feature film. It could be it could be a feature film, but now with the paradigm changing and people streaming things and using their laptops and their other electronic devices, it's very simple. We wouldn't mind doing it as a series, Netflix style. Yeah, are you listening, Netflix? Yeah. We also are looking at it as an animated feature, an animated series on the Cartoon Network. We have also had an idea of trying to get it, like I said, as the feature film under the auspices of someone like Robert Rodriguez, who did Sin City. We think this would be his, something he'd be interested in producing, executive producing. The idea is to expand it as a comic book and as a graphic novel, as an electronic game, and give everybody an idea of this story. Okay, so on Facebook, we have the Facebook page, The Legend of El Lobo. And for those of you who don't speak Spanish, and I'm certainly not bilingual, although I do speak a little Spanish, El Lobo, the wolf. So the Facebook page, I call everybody, all our fans, warriors. Hey, warriors. Hello, warriors. How's it going out there, warriors? Because I want to let the fans feel like they are a part of the family. Like they are important. Without them, we are talking to thin air. They can help spread the word. They can help feel like they're part of a movement, which I think this is what it's like. It's a grassroots movement. It's basically my story blended with Bruce, who has brought so much more to it and made it what it is today. And then we together are asking other people, do you like this? And they're like, yeah. Well, then spread the news. Be a part of the family. When I have the experience of a comic book fan buying my comic and complimenting me on my comic, it goes back to when I was a kid. My mom and dad got a divorce. Other things happened in my life that weren't so cool. Life was not good. Fantasy was much better. So I drifted towards that. I drifted towards TV and comic books. And from that was born my dream of wanting to be a comic book artist. And I worked on that for a long time, years. And then as life happens, I changed. Circumstances made me become an actor. But I decided still through that, and it's just fortunate, I created my own comic. Did I draw it? No, but I wrote it. I co-wrote it with my friend Bruce. And so I sort of fulfilled a dream. I created a comic book, which is what I wanted to do as a kid, or at least be a part of it. And when someone tells me, after I tell them or they read the story, there's this realization, they go, that's actually really good. That's actually well thought out. And I'm like, thank you. You confirmed that you're confirmed to the little kid living inside of me that I've got a good idea. You validate me. And then when you say, this art is great, you further validate the project, and you say I was good in the sense that we got good artists, and you tell the artist he's good. You confirm that, and you lift some of the spirit that says, is there going to be more? When can I see this? I can't wait to see more of it. And now, more than anything, you've got what I just said. You've got a communication between two total strangers who said, hey, thank you for making my life a little more interesting today. And that they, in turn, did the same thing for me. I'm a people person, and I believe that we need to share that energy that we have of ourselves and not be so scared. And I think it's a great medium to sort of get together and just play. The best way for someone who is inspired by me, and I'm very humbled by that, to create their own comic book, they're interested in that dream, I would tell them two things. Keep reading comic books, not just to continue the business and buying and keeping those guys in business, but it's where you get your inspiration. Write and don't judge yourself. See what you want to make by buying the comic, and then emulate it. Try to understand that the panels, the frames are moving in a certain way and telling a story, and that the words accent or complement what the pictures are saying, and vice versa. right? Copy that and don't judge yourself. That's a big thing. Write and draw. Just try it. Take an art class, right? Take an art class, take a writing class. And if you don't get a chance to, you still can do those things on your own. You can write and you can go to anybody. I mean, if I can get my comic book printed, you can. Go someplace, go to the local printing shop and just say, "Okay, can you make one for me?" You've got it. You did it. And then look at it and tell yourself, was it what you wanted? If there's any question about it, solve those problems. Do it again. Do another one. And the more you do it, it becomes practice. You become more confident and self-fulfilling in your dream. To all our fans, warriors, this is Richard Soto. I speak for Bruce Logan to say thank you very much. If you like what we do, we appreciate the likes that you give us on Facebook and that you're sustaining with us. Spread the word. Help us help you, because you say you want to see these stories, you want to experience them, and you have humbled us by saying that they're good stories. Spread the word so that we can create a big enough fan base that the people in the power to help us create this, both as a film, a TV series, animated series, a comic book, will help us reach that goal and create these things that we can all share. We thank you. Without you, there is no The Legend of El Lobo. Viva the Warriors. People can find Bruce and myself on social media at our page, The Legend of El Lobo, on Facebook. Become a warrior. You warriors out there who are already on our page and like our page, spread the word. Invite somebody else if you like it that much to say, "Hey, check it out. Become a member of the tribe." And those of you who are listening to this right now, you too can become a member of our tribe. We can't do anything without you. We do it for you, and we hope that you enjoy it. Spread that word as well. And you can buy posters. You can buy comic books, and that's where you get the news. That's where you get the of events. Whether we're going to a comic book convention or there's a comic book convention that we recommend that you go to, or a comic book or an artist that we recommend, it is where you can become a member of our tribe, the Aztec tribe of the Legend of El Lobo. So don't forget, you're a warrior, be a warrior, and viva El Lobo.